Alright, guys, let's talk about Gretel and Hansel, which just was released this week, and it is a grim fairy tale version of Hansel and Gretel, which was what it was originally. And it's interesting to see this go to theaters, this grim version of a fairy tale, because I know that a majority of people don't even use these grim fairy tales as a basis for what they think these fairy tales are, because they usually think of something like Disney or something like comedic or lighthearted with the Hansel and Gretel story. So it's interesting that they're bringing out a dark version of this, because usually that's not always the case. There have been iterations before that have been dark of classic fairy tales, but I don't see that much in theaters. I haven't seen that much in theaters recently, so that's a positive for this movie. The other positive that I can give this is a gorgeous movie. This movie is incredibly beautiful. I was shocked at how incredibly gorgeous this movie is. It's a movie. It looks I'm surprised that it's not an A24 movie just by the looks alone. It feels so much like an A24 movie, but Orion Pictures did it. And that is my biggest positive, is that this movie is very beautiful. And then we'll get into my negatives, which is funny enough. The story is just whatever. It's so pretentious. It's trying to be more than what it is. It lost me with the story. Visually, it is incredible visually. Like, it is so beautiful. It's such a creepy movie. But the story is just kind of lame. It's like whatever. It's really a movie that's based. It's a very good definition of style over substance, because there is not much substance in this movie. It is a basic story of Hansel and Gretel, but with Gretel kind of being the bigger character and becoming a little different, I guess, to be fair, than the story. But it is a movie that's very similar to the story with just added Gretel story, and that's pretty much it. There's nothing else really for the story that's fascinating or amazing or well done. I think the story is just really uninteresting. It is really not much to say about the story. Like I said, it's the basic plot of Hansel and Gretel, except for Gretel is more of a character, like more of a main character in this than Hansel. That's why their names are switched. And it's funny that we got a movie called Gretel and Hansel instead of Hansel and Gretel, because I still want to call it Hansel and Gretel, because the other iterations and the story is called Hansel and Gretel. So I keep forgetting that right before I say this name. Before I started reviewing this, I kept saying Hansel and Gretel, and I was like, shit, I'm going to mess this up in the review, but I haven't. So it's one of those names too. I'm like, I understand the point of them changing the name, because she is more of a important character than Hansel, but it's just kind of like you could have used that name for like a better movie, at least to me, in my opinion. Again, this movie is incredibly beautiful, but the story is just so dull and uninteresting, and I was really bored watching this movie. I was so uninterested and not invested at all. I was invested in the visuals, but whenever that's not happening, the story is just really, really bland. The acting's fine. The acting's good, but it's nothing else besides that to make this movie, for me personally, to ever really rewatch this again. I really don't have an urge to watch this again, and I'm glad I saw it. It's not a movie that I hated, and also it's a January horror movie that's quote unquote better than the right it should have in a January month of dumping ground movies released in January. So to be fair, it's a better movie than it should be in January by visuals alone. And the story's just bland and whatever, but it's not bad. It's not like The Turning bad, in my opinion, or The Grudge even. It's just an adequate story with incredible visuals and an incredible sense of atmosphere and cinematography. And that's it. The movie is a very mixed bag for me. Very dull and lifeless, but with a very good visual polish to it. If you like this video, check out my other content, like, share, and subscribe. Also, start a conversation down below with me. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching.